Good afternoon. My name is Tony Henning. I've been following mobile imaging for the last 9 years for Future Image. For the rest of the day, as Alexi said, this is what we're going to focus on. As always, I like to start us off by reminding us why we pay attention to this. That's film cameras. Sales of film cameras are starting to look like AstroTurf on this graph. If you mix in single-use cameras, the picture is not quite so bleak, but the trend is still inexorably downward. Digital cameras are still strong. There's a little hiccup this year in the trajectory, as there is in the trajectory for just about everything this year. It doesn't show up very well on this graph because the scale has to accommodate camera phones. Sales of camera phones continue to explode. If we put in or factor in the fact that an increasing percentage of camera phones have a second camera, the number of cameras in phones is even more impressive. And for the first time this year, if we factor in the gray market phones, those are unbranded, unregulated phones manufactured in China that have until recently been consumed almost entirely in the Chinese market, which is a nice big market. There's 700 million subscribers there. The number of cameras in phones approaches 2 billion by the end of the forecast period. Rather staggering. There's still room for growth. Next year, 1 out of every 3 humans will have a camera phone. That's men, women, and children. That's an installed base of 2.3 billion, and that's going to grow to 3 billion by the end of the forecast period. By that same time period, however, there will be 5.7 billion cellular subscribers, and 6.6 billion people will be covered by a cellular network out of a population of just over 7 billion people. So that still leaves a lot of upside to this market. As huge as it is, it's still got plenty of room to go up even further. I always like to remind us of why camera phones, despite these huge sales volumes, have not really reached their potential yet. They're still striving to reach their potential. And I've gone over these ad nauseum in the past years. You've listened to me whine about it, and I'll just remind you of what they are. There was virtually nothing that was done right to begin with. So let's look at how we're doing in our quest for satisfactory camera phones. Here are some of the state-of-the-industry camera phones being offered to subscribers in Japan. Introduced last year at this time, the market is now flooded with 8-megapixel models from every manufacturer and every carrier. By the way, Docomo says that the Sharp phone can recharge a dead battery with 10 minutes of sunlight, sufficient to make a 60-second call. So solar phones are coming. Mid-year, we started to see 10-megapixel phones. And as you can see from the pictures, Japanese consumers still prefer flip phones or clamshell phones. Only 2 of the 19 models I've shown are anything else, and they happen to be sliders. Then last month, 12-megapixel models started to show up. Yesterday, Docomo introduced 20 new handsets. All the carriers introduced them in huge clusters, and 4 of them were 12-megapixel models. So there are now at least 7 different 12-megapixel camera phones in Japan. Here are 2 of the most interesting camera phones on the Japanese market. Both are from Hitachi and both are from KDDI. The first, the H001, is a 5-megapixel 3x optical zoom model with a wide VGA screen that can show 3D images and movies, no glasses required. A toggle button lets users switch between normal and 3D parallax views. The second, with the just lovely name of the Haivision Camwoo, is another 5-megapixel 3x optical zoom model, but it also shoots 720p HD video. Here's the cream of the crop for the European market. Oops, no, I'm sorry. This is actually some more Asian models. The high-end phones in Asia are by no means limited to Japan. In Korea, Samsung has released a souped-up version of the Pixon 12-megapixel camera phone with a 3.3-inch wide VGA active matrix OLED screen, a telescoping 3x optical zoom lens, and 720 HD video recording. Leading Taiwanese digital camera ODM Altec has recently introduced its first mobile phone, and they've jumped into the mobile imaging market with both feet, offering a 12.2 megapixel CCD 3x optical zoom T8680, which they released into the mainland Chinese market. It retails, by the way, for less than half what the iPhone retails for in China. Here's the cream of the crop for the European market. Once again, the first 8-megapixel camera phones hit the European market last year at this time, and the leading handset makers continue to offer new 8-megapixel models there. This summer, both Samsung and Sony Ericsson upped the ante to 12 megapixels. This now is the state of the art in the United States. 2 years ago, this screen would have remained blank. There simply weren't any camera phones offered by U.S. carriers that could compare with everything offered in the rest of the world. Last year, there was just one, the Motozine ZN5. And although we have to step down a notch in resolution from the other regions, this year there's a respectable portfolio of decent camera phones available in the U.S. The Casio handset on the right is the only optical zoom model in the U.S. So there are quite a few 5-megapixel models available, including these much anticipated and much hyped Android models from Verizon. And this year, we actually have a couple of 8-megapixel models available to subscribers. Although it's not among the industry-leading handsets as far as imaging capabilities are concerned, we simply cannot afford to ignore the iPhone. The iPhone has posted solid sales numbers every quarter since its introduction more than 2 years ago, both here and abroad. In fiscal 2009, Apple sold nearly 21 million iPhones. But sales volumes don't begin to measure the impact of the iPhone on the industry. A quick look at the mobile phones available at one of UK's leading mobile phone retailers, Carphone Warehouse, indicates one area of impact: design. These are all slab or PDA-style handsets dominated by large touchscreens with icon-based interfaces. Research shows that 40% of users now prefer a finger-operated touchscreen interface. That's a huge change from before. Most have accelerometers and a paucity of physical controls. None have keypads or keyboards. If imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, Steve Jobs must be blushing. Another area that the iPhone has, if not pioneered, certainly kicked into high gear, is the proliferation of little specialty applications that run on a mobile phone. Say what you will about the lifespan of some of the applications, but the ecosystem of the App Store, iTunes, and the iPhone has been a stunning success. There are now more than 100,000 apps just in the iPhone store. They're being downloaded at the rate of roughly 6 million a day. More than 2 billion have been downloaded since the store opened 16 months ago. According to Juniper Research, apps from all sources, not just the iPhone App Store, will be downloaded at the rate of 20 billion a year by 2014. Piper Jaffray estimates that apps will be a $2.8 billion business this year, growing to more than $13 billion in 2012. So everybody says, yeah, they're cute, but is this a business? Well, yeah, it appears to be. What do apps have to do with mobile imaging? Plenty. The website App Store HQ lists more than 1,600 photography apps for the iPhone. And while some of them just offer pin-ups, the bulk of them actually extend and enhance the utility of the camera function.